Okay, I know what you're saying. You've been asked to be an advisor, and you probably don't even know how to balance your own checkbook. That's fine, neither do I. I never have, I've never learned, and it's not a big deal. We are asking you to help a chapter with its finances. We don't want you to balance a federal budget. We're not looking for you to turn lead into gold. What we need you to do is help a bunch of college students manage their finances at the chapter. So there are some things that you can do, even if you are a sales manager, even if you mow grass down at the park. You have the ability to help our undergraduates out. And that's what we want to reinforce with you. That's what I want to reinforce with you here today. We're going to cover the Finance Committee, which is the heart of chapter finances. We're going to cover the monthly financial report, which will provide you with a lot of information that you need to help run your chapter and help it run its finances. And then also what we're going to do is go through a few things concerning resources with our chapter and what the office and fraternity provide. So first things first, you've got to have a finance committee. And the best way to take a quick gauge of this, call up your treasurer and ask him when the finance committee meets. Don't ask him if they have one, don't ask him who's on it, just say, when does your finance committee meet? If he stutters and kind of blanks out and starts backpedaling, you know you probably don't have a finance committee, which is fine, at least now you know. If he does have a finance committee, find out who's on it and who meets. All finance committees should have the treasurer, you're going to be on it, the assistant treasurer will be on it, the vice president will be on it, and then potentially if there's more than one vice president. But those men have to be on your finance committee. Then find out when and where they're meeting. They should be meeting somewhere in the chapter house, chapter property, and they also should be meeting at least twice a month. So if they're not, get in there and help them do that. A finance committee is going to help spread the work. Too many of our chapters, they have one guy who runs everything. The treasurer is a one-man show. You might find this where you're going. And that's a habit we need to break because it's too much for one man usually. And then also we have problems with embezzlement. When there's no one looking over his shoulder, it's a lot of power and a lot of ability for one man to get into the finances. So make sure that they're meeting. As they're meeting, they need to be discussing financial matters of the chapter, obviously. Who owes them money? Who do they owe money? What does the budget look like? How is their month going? Collections will be a big item. I'm not going to jump too deeply into this because really what you want to do is take the monthly financial report and use that as your agenda. So to move on to the MFR, every chapter is going to turn in one of these. It's a monthly financial report. They turn it in via email. You need to get a copy of this. Again, ask your treasurer and say, can I get a copy of the MFR? If he doesn't have one, then you know that you've got some work to do. If he does have one, have it send it to you. If you can't get it through to him, call the office. The central office can get you a copy. The MFR is a pretty simple spreadsheet that each chapter does every month. It has 4 pages, and when you get yours, make sure that you go through all 4 of those sheets. You're going to have a profit and loss, which just is basically how much money you brought in minus how much money you took out for expenses. The second report is accounts receivable, so who owes you money. Third report's accounts payable, so who you owe money to. And the last report is a budget versus an actual. So make sure that you've got all 4 of those reports and that you get a chance to go through them with your treasurer because they are really going to tell a story. And I'll tell you a few things that you want to look for. Profit versus loss, obviously make sure that they're not blowing more money than they're bringing in because that's usually a sign of a problem down the line. Second thing on the accounts receivable, look to see how many guys owe more than 60 days out because that means that they haven't paid in 2 months and they're probably dragging down the chapter. In the accounts payable report, just look for anything. It's pretty uncommon for any of our groups to have any accounts payable, so if your chapter has some, that's an issue. And then the budget versus actual is going to tell you where it's spending its money. So if it's really out of whack in social or really out of whack in philanthropy, that's a good conversation to have with your officer. Ask why you're to that point and what needs to be changed. If your officer is not going through this and is not doing an MFR on a regular basis, walk him through it, walk him through the importance of it, and then explain to him there are resources available through the fraternity, the chapter consultant, the headquarters staff, a division president, and he can help you and him go through this the first time. It's not difficult, and once you get in the habit of doing it, it's very helpful. The fraternity has a bad habit as a whole of letting our guys just skate through. and we don't want to hold guys accountable. But that's unfair to the guys who are paying, and really that's unfair to the guys who aren't paying, because they're developing some bad habits that are going to be no good for them in the future. So for everyone involved, make sure your guys are paying and make sure they are held accountable. There are a lot of resources available on the website that can help you on collection, that can help you on receiving payments, and strategies for accounts receivable. The best place to find resources would be else.org under the executive tab and within the treasurer's section. There's a whole list of items that you can use, things ranging from documents to help you collect information on new members, all the way through how to file your tax return each year. Finally, some other resources beyond the website to be aware of. I would recommend as a finance advisor or as a chapter advisor, as really any advisor that's going to interact with finances, to take a look at the officer portal page. Go through there. That's going to give you a good idea of how you are reporting your active members for annual dues. That will tell you how you're reporting your new members. That will tell you how you're reporting initiates. And those are the big items that you get billed for. I would also take a chance and call your treasurer and go through the QuickBooks page. And you'll need the chapter login and password to get into that. But as soon as you get into that, I would start going through the pages, making yourself familiar with that. A little tip for you. The first thing you should do is go to the activity log, and that's under the company tab. What that will tell you is the last time they logged in. So if it's been 3 months since they logged in, you need to have a conversation with your treasurer and get him up to compliance with that. Finally, you're going to have a bunch of resources will come to you in the fall over the email. That's when you'll get all the instructions for the enrollment report, for the new member report, for the initiation report, and you'll also get all of our insurance information. The first time you go through the cycle, I heavily recommend reading all that. I know it's going to be cumbersome, but at least become familiar, so when your chapters ask you a question, you know where to point them in the right direction. All alumni officers will be emailed that in the fall of each year. So take some time to look at that. And if you have questions, feel free to contact the central office. Specifically, you can contact me, Jack Creeman. David Seary would be able to answer a question. And if neither of us are available, Alan Selkin can take a look at it too with you. So in the first 30 days of you being an advisor, it's going to be difficult and you're going to be learning a lot. But if you can focus on those 3 things of going through the finance committee with the chapter, going through the MFR, and then using the fraternity resources, you will be ahead of the game and ready to help your chapter out.